in a sense, I'm sort of unprepared. I know that Bill last meeting talked about my health. I already talked about it. I'm doing much better, recovering quite a bit. In fact, I haven't had a blood transfusion or platelet transfusion in 3-4 weeks. So it's going good, and we're getting rid of medical equipment. So that's another good sign. So things are looking up good. I'm actually wearing pants with a belt now instead of sweatpants. So
I'm also wearing pants with a belt.
yeah.
Mr. Rogers,
Requirement?
Yeah.
if you don't mind, could you officially do a roll call since this is a Zoom meeting and we can ask where everybody's at, just so we have official record, please?
Okay, we'll do a roll call, and then when you announce your name, tell us where you're at. Your address, you're at Doug Rogers, 113 Birchside Circle, Locust Grove, Virginia, 22508. Bill.
Bill Hager, 104 Mimosa Lane, Orange, 22960.
Arthur.
Arthur Bryant. I am in my car, Orange, Virginia.
Good. I saw Jack.
Jack Rickett, 12555 James Madison Highway, Orange, Virginia.
Bob, how about you?
Bob McConnell, 14186 Madison Run Road.
I take it Gordonsville. Rose?
I'm Rose Deal, and I'm at the office.
Susan there with you?
Yes.
Does Tom have to tell us where he's at?
No, just the members.
Okay. I take it Julie and Sharon are not on. I don't see them.
Julie is actually on. Yes.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm at 34104 Indiantown Road in Locust Grove, Virginia.
Yeah. Is that good enough, Rose?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, I have no comments, and I'm going to turn it over to Rose or Tom to start our training on ethics.
Yeah, Tom and Eric, if you all want to go ahead and begin the COIA and FOIA training, I'll hand it over to y'all. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm here to observe.
I just crashed. My computer just crashed. I just rebooted, but I'm back.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure if you were frozen.
Well, no, I just got mad. I got offended, and so I left. No, I don't have a web. My computer doesn't have a webcam. I just bought one off of Amazon. I don't know if it was the problem. Hopefully, we'll make it through without another crash. Let's hope and hold our breath. But I'm ready to go. So is it me? Are we ready?
You're ready.
Okay.
You're on, sir.
Freedom of Information Act and Conflict of Interest Act. I'll do the Freedom of Information Act first. And Rose or Susan, whoever is participating, if you could shoot me an email later of the participants so I can send y'all certificates of completion so that you got documentation that they've done their mandatory training. So just shoot me an email later of who all was participating in the meeting that needs a certification. With that having been said, the Freedom of Information Act, which is Virginia Code 2.2 3700 and all the sections that follow it, it basically says everything we do is open to the public unless there's an exception. It says that the General Assembly has decided we don't want to run government in secrecy, and therefore technically everything is subject to FOIA. All meetings are open, everything is open, unless there is an exception, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This applies to all public bodies, which the EDA is definitely a public body, and it applies to all public records. Now, it's real important that we understand what public records are. When they did the definition of public records, they tried to be as detailed as they could. They literally said all writings or recordings that consist of letters, words, numbers, set down in handwriting, typewriting, printing, photostatting, photography, magnetic impulse, optical, blah, blah, blah. I could keep going. And it's any record that's prepared in the transaction of public business. That's the first important point you have to remember for FOIA. If it involves county business or EDA business, it's a public record. if it's not, if you just shoot an email to somebody with a recipe for something, that's obviously not public business. Or you send somebody an email, even if they're on the EDA, seeing where they're going on vacation, not public business. But anything that involves public business is a public record. Now that's important for one reason. Well, one important reason is we have to keep those. You have to keep those. You have a duty under the law to keep any public records that you get or create. Now, this is important because it doesn't matter how the record is created. It doesn't matter if it's on a county email account or a Gmail account or a Yahoo Mail account. It doesn't matter if you type something on your typewriter or scribble it on a notepad or text it, which we'll come back to. It's a public record and you have a duty to keep it. That's the important part. You can get in a lot of trouble if you don't keep it. And so anything you create, if you slip a note, I actually was city attorney in Hopewell many years ago, and during the meeting, two of the city councilors slipped each other notes. At the end of the meeting, somebody came up, made a FOIA request for those notes. And the city councilors were flabbergasted that could possibly be FOIAble, but it was. And then to turn over those notes that they'd scribbled back and forth, and they were quite embarrassing. And so anything that is discussing or about county or EDA business is a public record. It does include text messages. I'm sorry?
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I have an email exchange with Rose or Susan, they're maintaining those records. Do I also have to maintain a record of that?
Well, if you're comfortable that they have a record, then you're okay. But here's the danger. Rose and Susan say, oh, forget it. You know, the EDA members are keeping the records. We'll delete it. The court will not accept as an excuse or a reason or an explanation that, well, I thought the county was keeping it. Now, if you're using county email, that's a little bit different because we're archiving that. So if you're using a county, I don't know if you guys have county email addresses, but if you do, if you're using a county email address, you're pretty safe because we keep backups of all of those. But if you're using Gmail or anything else, don't rely on the county to have a copy. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Yep.
Okay. Text messages are probably the most critical. If you use texting to do business, you've got to retain a copy of those text messages. My simple advice is don't use texting to do county business or EDA business. That's the simple solution. You don't have to keep texts, like let's say you come into an EDA meeting and you text the chairman saying, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. The FOIA counsel has said that's not really county business, it's more informational. So little quick, hey, I'm on the way, running late, almost there, those kinds of things you don't have to keep. But if you shoot a text, hey, that person at the public comment period really made a good point, you have a duty to maintain those text messages. So simple solution, don't use texting for doing any kind of county business. If you do, there are apps. I know they make it for the iPhone and for Google phones that will actually archive your text messages and shoot them to your email. So if you're one of those people that loves the text like my wife does, she can't help herself, then get one of those apps. A lot of them are free, some of them are $5 or $10, and have your text message stream. You can tell it which ones, and it'll shoot them to an email account and save it. But you always have to be cognizant. It doesn't matter what the document is or what the medium was. The question is, was it public business? If it was, we have a duty to request or keep a copy of it, unless there's an exemption, which we'll get to in a minute. The other thing I will advise because of FOIA, don't put it on paper if you don't want to read it in the Orange Review, because invariably, you know, it's one of those things, especially with email. It's easy to hit send and then later go oops, but that's all FOIAble. And if you write in there, you know, so and so, the member of the supervisor is a big jerk and I hate his guts, that's FOIAble. And so it's really a good idea when you're creating records to stop and think, am I okay if this is in the paper? Because And that never happens until some sort of dispute occurs. We can go years without a serious FOIA issue, and then two people start fighting and they start FOIAing everything, and then out it comes. So the next question is, how is a FOIA request made? There is no formula. There are no magic words. There's no rules. The requester doesn't have to do anything, quote unquote, correctly. The requester, if somebody walks up to you in Walmart and says, hey, I need to get copies of all y'all's emails over that subject. Technically, they just made a FOIA request. So you have to be aware. Now, it becomes a he said, she said. If you don't remember and you walk away, well, I don't remember them saying that to me. But the point I'm making is there's no formal. If somebody sends you an email and asks you for documents, what you should immediately do is contact Michelle in admin, keeps track of all the FOIA requests and is our FOIA officer. I don't know, who is your FOIA officer, Rose? Do you know?
It's Michelle.
Michelle?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So if you get anybody asks you for anything, sends you an email, immediately contact Michelle. She's the expert on this. She'll make sure that right notices go out and the ball gets rolling. She has a sheet she fills out, a blue sheet that creates a record of it. But understand that there's no formula. If somebody asks for something, they've made a FOIA request. You can require that they provide us the name and their address. There's a couple of reasons for that. The primary reason is we don't have to respond to out-of-state requests. If a request comes from out of state, we can ignore it. That was actually litigation a few years ago, and the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I think maybe even the Supreme Court, I can't remember, but I know the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld it and said we don't have to respond to out-of-state FOIA requests. So that's one of the reasons to ask them their name and address. Now, a lot of people, if they're from Maryland, they just find somebody in Virginia to make the request. We cannot ask why somebody wants the records. And if the Maryland person ships it to a Virginia person, we can't say, it's a subterfuge. If somebody in Virginia or the newspaper, the media, if somebody in Virginia or a media organization makes a request, we have to respond. You have 5 working days to respond. The day you get the request isn't one of the 5 working days, because theoretically somebody could send it to you at 4:55 in the afternoon. You have 5 working days, and in those 5 working days, you have to give one of 4 responses. Response 1 is, we're withholding the records, and here's the state exemptions that we're allowed to use. Here are the records or some portion of the records, and if we're giving some portion, here's the state section that allows us to hold them. We can give a response that we don't have those records. But if we don't have them, but we think we know who does, we have a duty to tell them that. So in other words, if you get a FOIA request for a deed, or the county gets these all the time, you get a FOIA request for a deed, we have to say we don't have those records, but you may want to check with the circuit court clerk's office. And so if you know who might have the records, you have to tell them we don't have them, but this department or this person might have them, or if they send us a request for Albemarle records, say we think maybe Albemarle might have their records, but we do have a duty to let them know. The other response we can have is that we can't answer within 5 working days. You have to give a reason. Somebody's on vacation, it's too much to look up or too much to research, in which case we automatically get 7 more working days. So if we get a big request, we normally just take the extra 7 days. And that's automatic. We have a right to it, but we have to give the reason. And usually it's because the request is just so voluminous that we can't possibly do it in 5. Here's an important part with FOIA that people get confused on. We don't have to answer questions. Let me say that again in English. You do not have to answer questions. When a constituent or somebody says, why did you do such and such? Is the EDA planning this? You don't answer questions. FOIA is strictly documents. If there's a document that answers the question, you can produce the document. But a lot of people, they'll send us questions, so this is a FOIA request, but we're not required to answer questions under FOIA. We're only supposed to produce documents, and here's the second part, documents that exist. We don't have to create a document for somebody. Somebody says, I want a chart of all of the proposals that have been made in the last 5 years. Rose doesn't have to sit down and create such a chart. If we don't have one, we don't have one. The answer would be no such record exists. The only exception to that is if it's just a computer printout, we do have to create that. But that's, the FOIA counsel said you're not really creating anything, you're just pulling the data out of the computer. So does that make sense to everybody? You don't, a lot of people think FOIA, they can ask us and we have to answer anything they ask us. Don't answer questions. And my advice is never start. I strongly recommend don't go down the path of answering questions, because what I've discovered is it never ends. You answer the question, ask another question, and before you know it, you're caught in this horrible conversation with this person, and they're never satisfied. So don't answer questions. We can also redact information. So if we're producing something, one of the things Michelle will do, and she'll run it by me too, if a record is discoverable, but some portion of it has private information, so my social security number, a bank account number, we will redact that. We don't, state law doesn't even allow us to provide that. So one of the reasons to give it over to Michelle as soon as you can, is she can start the process of looking through those records and deciding what needs to be redacted. Next thing I was going to talk about, we can and should charge for FOIA requests. So if we get a FOIA request, we should immediately kind of in our brain calculate how long is this going to take. And if we think it's going to cost, and all we can charge is actual time, so Rose's time, so if Rose makes $400,000 a year, I don't know what she makes, but we'll say 400,000, and we can only charge her hourly rate. We can't charge her benefits. So what is 400,000? That's $200 an hour. So we could charge $200 an hour for her time, but we couldn't charge for benefits, insurance, that sort of thing. But we can charge for the actual labor time. And so it's important right away, if we think this is a big request, and the reason this is important is if we think it's going to cost more than $200, we can insist on them prepaying us. This eliminates a lot of big, onerous, ridiculous requests. When we tell them we need a check for $1,500, I would say 90% of requests go away. We don't want to cheat anybody, but if we're looking at a request and we're going, this is going to take 20 hours, at somebody making $35,000, that's $1,750, that's still, $350. Then we need to say, look, we need a deposit. And we don't have to start the FOIA request response until they send us the deposit. So basically the whole thing goes on hold. I asked about the FOIA officer. Every department or agency has to have one. And Rose said Michelle in admin is ours. I'll give you a quick idea of the kinds of exclusions, the ones that are particular for the EDA. Personnel information, except salaries. Everybody's salary is public information. Legal advice. So one of the things that's really safe for you is send stuff through my office. Send it to me, send it to Eric. And if you've got a question, the more you run it through our office, the more likely we'll have legal advice protection for you on it. Documents used in closed meetings, certain software. Where it really comes in for the EDA is information about businesses that are thinking about coming. You know that. You've gone into a bunch of closed sessions over that. Business that's thinking about coming, proprietary business information. If somebody tells us this is proprietary, but we need to be sure we tell these businesses, mark your proprietary stuff. When you send us information, mark it as proprietary so that we can legally protect it. And especially in the very beginning, business said, well, let us send you your financials, let us send us your whatever else. It's a good idea to say, look, mark, if you want unless you want that stuff out in the open, mark it as proprietary. And then there's FOIA protections for that. Let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the penalties. Violations, which is it says any proceeding commenced against an officer, so that'd be an EDA member or public body member, if the court finds a violation was willful and knowingly made, shall impose on you individually. The county can't pay it, the EDA can't pay it, $500 for a first offense and up to $2,000 for subsequent offenses. Well, actually $2,000 for subsequent, up to $5,000. First offense is a $500 minimum up to $2,000. After that, it goes to a $2,000 up to $5,000. So, and it has to come out of your pocket. So I say that this is the key advice I always give. The county pays me and Eric the same whether we twiddle our thumbs or answer your FOIA questions. So if you're not sure about something, if you're not sure if you need to keep something, if you're not sure, and the other thing is you have to keep everything at least 5 years. And so if you're not sure if you need to keep something or if it's FOIA-able or you're not sure how FOIA applies, pick up the phone and call us or shoot us an email. Doesn't cost the county anything, and better safe than sorry. There's this additional penalty. If the court finds that you did it on purpose, if you altered a document or destroyed a document, it says it's $100 per document. So if it was an 80-page report and you destroyed it, technically 80 times 100 would be the potential penalty. And so, I mean, the penalties for FOIA violations are stiff, and the benefit of the doubt goes to the citizen. We don't get the benefit of the doubt. All the benefit of the doubt goes to the citizen. So as I wrap the FOIA part up, I really want to reiterate, if you have any question ever, just call me or Eric, email us, and let's deal with it up front. I've gotten a call before, hey, I inadvertently destroyed a document. You know, and then I realized I need to keep it. What I advised them in that situation was that this is not my advice to you because it's case by case. I said, you make a record what that document was to the best of your recollection, what it said, why you inadvertently deleted it, put it in the file. Hopefully it'll never be an issue. But it's a good idea if you give us a heads up sooner rather than later. And with that, does anybody have any questions about, I know I ran through it in 20 minutes, but does anybody have any questions on FOIA?
Just to make sure, in a meeting like this, EDA meeting, sometimes I make notes on the agenda or the minutes about something. My notes are FOIA-able, is that right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
The notes are FOIA-able. So yeah, if you're one of those people that marks up an agenda, I do.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those people that marks up an agenda, now here's one of the things you can do. You don't necessarily have to keep the original. I hate paper. So I scan everything. So if I have notes on an agenda, I scan that agenda, make sure I've got a backup, and then I don't keep the paper. Mm-hmm. But that's the other thing you really need to be careful of. If you're saving stuff on your computer, make sure you get a backup. You either have a cloud account, a Dropbox or something that you're backing up to, or a secondary hard drive, or because computers, it's not a question of if a computer is going to crash. It's not a question of if a hard drive is going to go bad. They all do. And so it's make sure that you've got some sort of a backup system so that you show good faith and not negligence, that all your records on an old hard drive, and then when it crashes, you got nothing. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. This is Arthur Bryant. If I'm approached by a citizen of the county at the grocery store or the post office, and they want to ask a question about a topic relevant to the EDA, can we ask them if they're making a FOIA request, or just casual conversation?
Well, if they're having a conversation and asking you questions, remember, we don't have to answer questions. So you're just having a conversation. That's not FOIA. It's if they come up to you and ask for something, hey, I'd really like to see all the emails you guys exchanged on that subject. Sure. They're asking for documents. So if it's specifically asking for a document, that's a FOIA request. If it's just, hey, why'd y'all do such and such, or what's going on here? You don't have to answer questions. So that's a conversation. That's not FOIA. That's not a FOIA request. That's just you having a conversation. Okay. So it only turns into a FOIA request if they say, I'd like to get a copy of all those emails, or I'd like to get a copy of that proposal, or whatever. Now they've made a FOIA request. Does that make sense?
That's clear. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, then we'll go to Conflict of Interest Act. This one actually has more teeth in it. The Conflict of Interest Act, thanks to our Governor McDonald a few years ago, really got tightened up, and has some pretty draconian penalties. Basically, what the Conflict of Interest Act says is you cannot accept money or anything of value for doing your job, for helping somebody get a job at the county, helping them get an appointment to a government agency, helping them get promoted, helping them get on some board or commission. You can't help somebody get a contract and get anything for it. So if you get, even as simple as you help somebody get a county contract and they buy you $100 dinner, you've got a problem, because it's going to be interpreted that that $100 is payment for you helping them get a contract. So basically, you can't accept anything of value if it's going to, in any way, shape, or form, you're going to do something for that person that's county or EDA related. The other thing you cannot do is use confidential information. This is really important at an EDA level. Is, you know, you're sitting in a closed meeting and you're finding out information about a company, maybe a piece of real estate. You cannot use any confidential information, nor can you tell your family members about it or close friend. That's a COIA violation. Basically, what confidential information you receive, you must keep confidential. Nobody can make any profit. It's sort of like insider trading at the stock market level. So you have to be very careful. And here's the problem: you may do it inadvertently if you're not careful. You're talking to your best friend. Oh man, there's a big development coming down in the industrial park in that lot. Maybe the best friend goes, well, shoot, maybe I should buy that lot, or maybe I should take a look at that. So you have to be careful that even offhand comments that are confidential information, that somebody winds up using that, and the friend won't get in trouble, you will. So very important that you, whether it's on purpose or inadvertently, you've got to keep confidential information confidential. And if any of it slips out and somebody uses it, you're guilty, the end. You can't accept any kind of money, loan, gift, favor, service, business, or professional opportunity that tends or could tend to influence your performance or your official duties. It's that could tend part that's a little scary. So it basically says don't take anything if it could be even perceived. It's that perception of impropriety. It says if it could even be perceived that it's affecting your duties, don't take it. You can take campaign contributions. You guys don't campaign. That would apply more to the Board of Supervisors. You can't accept any kind of a gift that could influence you in your official duties. So basically what they're saying is any gift that's kind of times out with something you do on the EDA is by definition a violation. Here's what gifts are. It's a gratuity, a favor, a discount, entertainment, hospitality, a loan, a forbearance, anything having monetary value, transportation, travel, lodging, meals, tickets, reimbursements. I mean, it's pretty broad, the gift definitions, so you got to be real careful. Now, a gift does not include if you're invited to some kind of a public event, like when we used to have the Liberty Ride. That's an event open to the public. You are allowed to receive tickets to that, because what they basically said is in a position in the EDA, that's an economic development, at least in theory, item. So you can receive tickets to a widely attended event, it's called. So Liberty Ride would be the first example that pops to mind. So if you're not sure, again, call me, call Eric, say, hey, somebody wants to give me 2 tickets to Liberty Ride or a wine festival or some in a Barboursville Vineyard or something. If it's a widely attended event that it's normal for political type folks to go to, then you may be okay. You and your immediate family can accept $100 a year from a lobbyist or a person or business who is seeking to become a party to a contract with the county. So basically, you and your family are capped at $100 a year, and I'm going to get back to that in a minute. So if it's somebody who does business with the county, they can give you some small gifts. And here's the interesting thing: $20 and under doesn't count. Technically, somebody give you $20 a week, and it doesn't count. The law says $20 doesn't count towards that 100. So you don't need to worry about, like, somebody hands you, a $15 fruitcake for Christmas. Doesn't count, doesn't apply. We pretend it didn't even happen. So if it's under 20, and if you're not sure, just ask the donor. I hate to be rude. I mean, how much did this cost? Because if it's under $20, doesn't count. You can receive $20 and under gifts all day long. every day. So, and the reason is they don't want to get into nitpicky stuff. You can't accept opportunities either, business opportunities, ground floor opportunities, new companies coming and they want to hire you as their whatever, diversity officer or whatever. You can't do any of that. If you inadvertently accept a gift, you realize afterwards, I shouldn't have, or you call Eric or you call me and we say, shouldn't have taken that. There's a safe harbor, you can give it back. If you haven't used it, you can give it back. Or if you did use it inadvertently, give the value back. So if somebody gave you a $250, I was going to say Redskins, but they're not the Redskins anymore, Washington football team. Somebody gave you a $250 Washington football team ticket to play Dallas. You drove up, you watched the game, and you said, oh, shoot, I probably shouldn't have done that. Well, the answer is correct. You shouldn't have done that. But you can get out of it by immediately giving that $250 back. So if you ever do it, if you accept something, use something, and afterwards you go, uh-oh, call me, call Eric, and we will do our best to get that straight right away. But if you give it back, and what the definition is, within a reasonable period of time upon the discovery that you accepted the gift when you shouldn't have. You can't have a personal interest in a contract that the EDA is making. So, if, for example, you own a piece of real estate, I would say even if it's an adjacent piece of real estate, you have a personal interest. It could affect you personally, a transaction. If that happens, and a personal interest means financial benefit or liability accruing to you, a member of your immediate family. And immediate family is anybody living in your house. So technically, if somebody's living in your house and it's your nephew, technically he's immediate family. So anybody, you and anybody living in your house cannot have a personal interest in a contract with the EDA. You can have a contract with the board. You cannot have a contract with the county agency and be on the EDA or be involved in that transaction. I mean, you can be on the EDA. And you can have a contract with any, or can't be involved in any contracts, if anything the EDA controls. You can be involved in a contract that affects a group of people. Let me tell you the difference. Let's say your spouse is a real estate agent and the EDA is about to market a piece of property. Well, technically, as a real estate agent, your spouse might sell that property. So technically your family would benefit, but there's no guarantee your spouse is going to be the agent that sells it. It could be any number of 100 agents in the county. So your spouse is a part of a group. So now what you can do is you can be involved in that transaction as long as you disclose up front. So what that means is, let's say the EDA is going to list a piece of property for sale. You would make a public declaration. My spouse is a real estate agent. She markets commercial properties. If she sells this property to be a benefit, so she's part of a group. But because she's part of a group, as long as you declare that she's in the group, and you also have to declare that you can still remain impartial. So if that ever pops up again, call me, call Eric, get the language from us so that you can make the right declaration. If you are disqualified from being involved in a transaction, you can't be involved in it at all. You have to skip the closed session. If they're going to discuss something in closed, you aren't allowed to discuss it in closed. You aren't allowed to be involved at all. You have to abstain from voting. You have to avoid the closed session. And you have to stay away from any part of that transaction. Anybody have any questions on that? You may participate in any kind of a transaction that affects the public in general. So if it's, you're voting on something that, you benefit, but the whole county benefits, that's not considered a conflict. So if it's something that the whole county or the citizens in general, some big chunk of the county is benefiting from, you can be involved in that. Here's the penalties. A knowing violation. Now, and let me stop right there. The state law requires you to read the Conflict of Interest Act. So ignorance is no excuse. The judge cannot and will not accept I didn't know, because you're required. If you haven't done it, email me or email Michelle or Rose, or somebody will send you a copy of it. You're required by law to read the Conflict of Interest Act. and you're by law presumed to know what's in it. And so, you know, the law talks about a knowing violation, but anything you do is considered a knowing violation because you knew the law, because you read it, because you were required legally to read it. The difference between FOIA and COIA, the Freedom of Information Act, it's penalties of cash out of your pocket. The Conflict of Interest Act, it's criminal. It's class 1 misdemeanor, and which is actually theoretically up to 12 months in jail. And so Conflict of Interest Act violations are much more serious. Also, a violation of Conflict of Interest Act is considered malfeasance of office, so you could be removed from the EDA almost immediately. On top of that, the criminal penalties, there's also civil penalties, which is at $250, which shall be assessed. So, especially in conflict of interest, even more than in FOIA, if you even remotely think there's an issue, contact us. And it's, remember, when you contact me or Eric, it's all attorney-client privileged. So, you know, you can tell us all the facts, tell us what's going on. If we're not sure, we can actually ask the Commonwealth's attorney for a legal opinion that it is or isn't a COIA violation. If the Commonwealth's attorney says it's not a violation, then it's not. Then you can never be charged with a violation. I have done that a couple of times. Let me explain how it works in the real world. Commonwealth's attorney doesn't want to do this. So I've had 2 of these in Orange, and in both cases, Diana said, well, you write the opinion and I'll sign it. And so really what happens is my office winds up writing the opinion on whether it's a conflict or not, send it over to Diana, she looks at it, and in both cases, she just basically rewrote our opinion. So if you get an opinion from me or from Eric, it provides you a defense. If you get an opinion from Diana, it's an absolute protection. You cannot get in trouble for a COIA violation if you have an opinion from the Commonwealth's attorney. So again, it's better safe than sorry, better to ask up front than to say, you know what, I wonder if this is a COIA violation or not. And with that, I'll see, does anybody have any questions? No questions? All right.
Yep.
Well, if you think of any later, just call me or email me, and I'll be glad to address them. And I'll reiterate again. I always like to tell people this: I get paid the same whether I twiddle my thumbs or help you guys. So don't ever hesitate to call. Don't ever hesitate to contact us, because that's what we're here for. That's what the county's paying us for. So by all means, reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
All righty.
Yep. Rose. Next, we're talking Virginia Career Works, presentation by Marty.
Yes, and we have Marty Bywaters Baldwin from the Orange Workforce Center and Sarah Drebes as well with the Workforce Innovation Act here, and they're going to give us a brief presentation of some initiatives they're working on, and I believe Sarah's going to give us a success story from her program as well. So I'll hand it over to Sarah and Marty.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for having us here. And it's been a pleasure. Quick history, since 2015, we've had the pleasure of staffing the Workforce Center in Orange. And we're a small team. There's 6 of us. And we staff the Workforce Center on Bellevue Avenue. We're open 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8:30 to 4. We help job seekers get ready for jobs, and we help employers find local talent. So what that looks like practically is we do a lot of resume writing, a lot of attaching resumes to emails, and also orienting job seekers about who the local companies are, what they're hiring for, and then how they can get training to get the skills that businesses are looking for. So that's a little overview of what we do. Statewide, the Workforce Centers are branded Virginia Career Works. And so we have the support regionally with Virginia Career Works Piedmont and statewide. So Rose had asked if we would give a little update of what we're seeing at the Workforce Center. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of data of the current situation on unemployment. So this graph here, the green line is national unemployment rates. The red is Virginia, and the green is Orange County. So you can see that the county has been tracking closely with the state rates. There's a huge jump, obviously, in March, and then in April, in Orange went up to 9.9% unemployment, which was better than the national of 14%. And it has been coming down. This last data that we had at the county level was from September, was down at 5%, which was a percentage better than the state. So things are looking better. There are, it does seem like that job seekers are getting a little bit more confident about applying for jobs and switching jobs. Companies definitely have demand looking for workers. So what that looks like practically, that 5% unemployment means there's 462 folks in the county that are unemployed. And these graphs break down both by what sector they worked in, age, and education. So you can see, what stands out is both in Virginia and in Orange, accommodation food services were hit the hardest of workers or unemployed that were working in those industries, along with retail and healthcare and social assistance. And actually Orange, the unemployment for construction workers is a little higher than the state. Age-wise, 25 to 34-year-olds is the majority, is the highest age group that's unemployed, and the majority of the unemployed folks have high school diploma or GED. So that's a little bit of overview. And then here's some trends that we're seeing on workforce. There is a big supply and demand mismatch. So that's what workforce development does, is to connect the demand that businesses have with the supply of workers. And this disruption of COVID has scrambled that equation. So there are workers that are out there that are looking for work, especially from hospitality, food, accommodation, but finding the businesses that correspond, that are in a different industry, takes some retraining and takes some connecting of dots. One of the things that means is that we're hearing from a lot of hiring managers, they're looking more for skills than for experience. So in order to come from working in a hotel to maybe working in an HVAC company, job seekers need to be able to translate their skills of what they did in that hotel job with customer service, with maybe some maintenance that will translate to their new profession. And then there's a number of articles about how women are leaving the workforce at 4 times the rate of men. Women have been hit especially hard during COVID, and some of that is related to occupation in the industries that have been hit hardest, and some of it is other duties, childcare, and other responsibilities that create extra complications for work. And then there was a study out in the spring of 2020, African-American small business owners, there was a 41% drop in small business ownership amongst African-Americans. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing. Here's what we're doing to connect the supply and demand. We've been hosting hiring events, both outdoors, well, the weather was better, and we're pivoting this month to have virtual employer spotlights. So allow hiring managers to get on a call like this with job seekers and do a short 30-minute overview of their company, their opportunities, to generate interest in having folks apply for those companies. One of the things that we enjoy doing the best is helping people put together resumes and then helping those resumes get at the right desk. So when businesses tell us that they're looking for instance, a boiler operator, we can put together 4 or 5 resumes and shoot them over that might be helpful for that company to hire that position. We do have access to the state database of job postings, and so we can connect businesses with all of the workers that are unemployed in the state through that website, the Virginia Workforce Connection. We can post jobs, and we can help people look for work there. I invited Sarah to join us because she does our WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Youth Program. And one of the things through that grant that we can do is sponsor people to do a paid internship for 2 or 3 months to get their feet wet in a job and to let the employer see if they might be able to go on and hire that individual. So she's going to tell you a little later a story about someone that we were able to get hired in Orange, and internships are one of the ways that we can do that. And then also we can sponsor people's training. So a lot of people are looking to switch careers, and through the workforce grant, we can be the sponsor, pay the tuition for folks to get credentials in healthcare, IT, manufacturing, which includes logistics. So we send a lot of people to get their CDL license and business classes. So there's a picture here on the left of the outdoor job fair that we did in Orange back in September. It was a great event. We had 43 job seekers come out to Booster Park. And from that, 14 of those individuals got hired from the dozen companies that were there. Folks got hired from FM Expressions, from Zama, Orange Pharmacy, Plow and Hearth, and others. So you can see the numbers here. We see about 100 job seekers a month come through the Orange Center. And we were able to assist 62 folks getting jobs last year, working with 85 businesses and doing 4 job fairs. So I'll ask Sarah to tell us a little bit about the connecting work that she does with young adults 16 to 24 and local businesses through this cool initiative that she started up called the Pipeline Project.
Thanks, Marty. Hey, everyone. My name's Sarah Drubus, and I run the WIOA Youth Grant. And like Marty said, I have the opportunity to partner with businesses to assist youth that have difficult circumstances to find a career path. And so the Pipeline Project was a collaborative effort that a bunch of us made this past year for the 2019-2020 school year. It was between our organization, Virginia CareerWorks, and Rappahannock Goodwill, with DARS, which is the Department of Rehabilitation Services. It was also with Orange County High School and the business FM Expressions, which was also known as Green Applications, and Germanna Community College. So there was a bunch of different partners that worked together, and we were able to provide a program for graduating seniors who had a disability that didn't have a career path in place. And so the way it worked was we spent the fall semester identifying students for the program, and we came up with 4 great candidates. When we started back to school in January, myself and a couple of the other partners would meet with the 4 students 1 day a week, and we would train them in different workplace skills. So we created resumes, we practiced interviews, we also practiced what it looked like to work on a team, and how to communicate with each other. So it was a really fun program that we did with these 4 students over 8 weeks. And then at the conclusion of those 8 weeks, FM Expressions had agreed to host a paid internship on their dime for these 4 students to last the last 8 weeks of the semester. So the plan was, before COVID, for them to go Monday to Friday in the afternoons. The school was providing the transportation over to FM Expressions, and they would work a half-day internship for those 8 weeks. It all went smoothly for the first week, and then everything shut down. But all parties are really invested and ready to roll it out again when we can. So it's been just a great partnership between a lot of different organizations.
So along with connecting businesses with students and job seekers, we're able at the Workforce Center to help individuals get further training to get better paying jobs and to be more valuable to local employers. So Sarah's going to tell a story of one of the young ladies she's been working with that really wanted to pursue a career in healthcare and was able to do that even during the pandemic.
Yeah, so I met Jennifer over a year ago and explained the WIOA program to her and what we can offer, like Marty said, trainings and paid internships and developing a career path and work skills. And at that time, she didn't enroll. But then this spring, I got a call from Jennifer. She had saved my information and she knew how to reach us if she needed help. And she was really looking for a way to gain her CNA certificate. She had a lot of family members that work at Dogwood Village, and she just lacked the finances to go that route. She's also a young mother, so that's challenging for her as well. And so we were able to enroll her virtually. We had a virtual enrollment process up and running fairly quickly into the pandemic, which was great. So she got enrolled, she did her vocational evaluation, which supported her desire to be in healthcare. And then we quickly found that Career Nursing Academy was able to offer classes. They were one of the few schools that was up and running pretty quickly. And so they had a safe way to provide trainings for CNAs. And so we got Jennifer in the first one we could. We bought her some scrubs. And we also got a paid internship set up at the Culpeper Free Clinic so that she could gain some on-the-job skills while she was trained. She didn't get to finish her paid internship. Marty said earlier that we can do about 3 to 4 months, but she didn't get to finish because Dogwood Village snapped her up for an employment. So she was working there as a care aide while she was finishing her training and completing her state CNA exam. And then once she got all of that, they gave her a pay raise and titled her a CNA at Dogwood Village. So in just a few short months, she really accomplished a lot and was super motivated, and it was really fun to work with her.
So going forward, I had alluded to this during the next couple months, while weather doesn't allow for outdoor job fairs, we are going to do weekly employer spotlights over lunch to make it real easy for both businesses and job seekers to connect with each other. So next week's our first one on the 16th with Airjet Rocketdyne. They've got about a dozen openings, and we're hoping to get good turnout on the Zoom call to introduce them to their recruiter who's actually calling in from Texas about the openings in Orange and get folks in the pipeline for them. So if y'all have companies that are looking to recruit over the winter months, this is going to be a good method, I think, to connect people together. The good thing about having the Workforce Center is that if people need to come in and practice doing a Zoom call, Tanya's our staff dedicated full-time at the Orange Workforce Center. She's happy to help people create emails, create Zoom accounts, practice doing a call, so they'll be ready for these employer spotlights. I know Rose had mentioned that this group had some questions about that customers that are coming in the Career Work Center now post in the midst of COVID and kind of what interest is and the makeup of folks. There are a number of people that are looking for work. We're seeing right now, we're doing by appointment 3 days a week, and we're seeing about 40 job seekers a week in Orange. 60% of the folks coming in are doing straight out job searches. About 10% are coming in specifically for unemployment assistance. And then the other 30% have specific appointments with programs like Sarah and the WIOA program. We do have a large percentage of folks that are participating in the older worker job training program called CSEP that are, and they're coming in to do computer skills training. As far as jobs that people are looking for, it really is kind of across the board. We have a number of people that are looking for admin jobs, whether that's reception or more skilled like accounting. Healthcare, medical receptionists, that's a popular job that folks are looking for. People are looking for warehousing and manufacturing as well as retail. So like I said, kind of wide gamut. But that's a little bit about what we're seeing as far as customer base in the Workforce Center. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Anything else we can do for you?
Keep telling people about the Workforce Center.
Mhm.
The more, we don't want to be a well-kept secret, and so we've got capacity. We can handle more job seekers coming through, so helping spread the word. I know Sarah's always looking for more young 16 to 24-year-olds, so they can just come to the center and we can get connected with other programs. And then
Marty?
if you, yeah.
Yeah, quick question for you. So first of all, Sarah, kudos to you. That's a terrific story and really nice to hear, here in our community. So that being said, Marty, what are the plans for spring? I know COVID has really put a damper on everything that you're doing, or I guess, or everyone on this call and what we're doing. That being said, with a vaccine coming and hopefully some progress, we're going to have a pretty big disconnect. Marty, you and I have spoken a number of times. My concentration and focus and questions are always about our young people coming out of the high school. So last year they didn't have school in the spring. We don't have school in the fall. Doesn't look like we'll have school again in the spring. So we had a group of people graduate last year, only attending half of their senior year. And then we'll have seniors graduating this year. I won't get into a ton of details about the challenges that they're facing. What are your thoughts and some ideas of what can we do to reach these people? Very difficult to reach.
Yeah, you're right. That is a challenge, and the disruption for education. And then the next step for high school graduates is big deal. There's a couple things working in our favor. One is technology. So we've had a lot of young people jump on these Zoom job fairs, that kind of thing, with ease. That's been, I think, a real good method. And there are a lot of initiatives out there to connect anyone, but especially young people, with the next step as far as career training. So you may have heard this REV program that's statewide that is going towards the community colleges. And so individuals can get between $1,500 and $3,000 to study at the community college. So we've partnered with Germanna on that front to blast the word out to young people and adults that were affected by COVID. And at the last count, I think Germanna got 2,000 people interested in this REV grant program. So I think the more connections we can make like that, the other, I believe the way to go is learn while you earn. So programs like internships, apprenticeships, on-the-job training, where people can work during the day and study at night, and those two things are related. I think that's going to be the winning ticket with especially the economic stress that young people and their families are going to be facing.
And the last point I'll make, and you hit the nail on the head, economic distress. So you had discussed minority businesses being very hard hit. So, Sarah's story is a single mother. A lot of students are trying to do education virtually. If you speak to any teachers, which I know you do, that's not going that great, especially with economically challenged parts of our county and households. I just love to see us, start to think about, I think technology is wonderful. That, this Zoom call is terrific. I think there's people out there that still don't have the technology needed to reach you, and the transportation as well with buses. No transportation for school means kids aren't getting to school, which means some kids aren't eating, and so forth and so on. So anyway, it's a big challenge. I know you got a big job, so I appreciate everything you're doing.
Good. Thanks, Jack.
Marty and
Thank you,
Sarah, I just want to say thank you. I think that was an excellent presentation. And what would an employer need to do to set up one of the virtual interviews? And also for Sarah, if an employer wanted to have an internship program, would they do that with Mr. Saddlefield, or would they start that?
Yeah, so for the employer spotlights, Julie, just let me know and we'll get you on the calendar. We'd love to do that. I'll be point of contact for that. And Sarah, for internships?
Yeah, so for the internships, it's really person-centered. So it's great to know businesses that are open to hosting those, but it's based off of the students' interests. And then we also do some vocational evaluations for their strengths. And then we go out and try and find a business that would host that student. For the pipeline project, that was a little different because we were setting up kind of a group training internship. So always open to other businesses that would want to do something like that as well. And probably the best place to start would be to contact myself or Marty, and we could get that going.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty and Sarah. Appreciate it. Good information.
Yeah, our pleasure. And kudos to the county and the economic development staff that y'all have are fantastic. I think from the beginning, since 2015, Orange County Economics just opened up clear communication with us about what business needs are, and that makes connecting supply and demand a whole lot easier. So.
Yeah, good. Super.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Looking at your agenda, everybody, Bob, Jack, Bill, Julie, we have a motion to be made to appoint Rose as Secretary of the EDA. Do I have somebody that would like to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
You have the script
I'll
in front of you. Any discussion? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Welcome. Welcome there, Rose.
Thank you.
Another level of responsibility. Next thing we need is a
Because you
motion
already
to.
weren't doing it.
Next thing we need is the motion to approve the October 8th committee meetings. Would somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
And seconded. Good.
I'll second that.
Okay. You got the Rose or Susan who seconded? I think it was Bill.
Yes, sir.
Yep. All in favor? Aye.
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 You want to talk about this? Did y'all talk about the sale of this land back in October? I did catch it. I didn't
No,
know if we
sir.
needed to have a discussion on what we're doing as far as the sale of section lot 15.
Yes, this is a brand new, actually project that we've been approached about.
Okay.
Late last month, CVEC, Central Virginia Electric, approached us with an offer to purchase a portion of lot 15 in the Thomas E. Lee Industrial Park. The image here on my screen, can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. It depicts a portion of that 1.5 acre. So their offer states 1.5 acres more or less. However, it is more like 0.8 of an acre. And it's the portion of the lot outlined in red, with the entrance being the one with the hashed marks. They would like to install a 10 by 20 foot communication building that their subsidiary Firefly would supply broadband service to consumers in Orange County and Louisa County. I did solicit comments from the chairman of the Broadband Authority, Mr. White.
Yep.
And he is favorable of this, or in favor of this, for them to use this. It's a compatible use, he states. as well as it supports the initiative of the greater good of connecting the citizens of Orange County to broadband.
Yep.
They are offering a fair market value of $25,000 per acre. So 0.8 of an acre would equate to about $20,000 for the parcel.
Good. Didn't hurt. Anybody have any questions of Rose?
So Chairman White, there's no conflict with what we're doing with broadband?
No, because how he stated was it supplies the greater good of the citizens of Orange County by connecting them to broadband. And he's actually working and has had discussions with the VP of Central Virginia Electric to kind of collaborate on ways to work together. That red line on the screen, CVEC supplies electric to the southern portion of our industrial park, and Dominion supplies to the left or the northern portion. And our fiber hut is on lot A as you first come into the industrial park. So they're a little bit distanced apart. And this parcel is really not buildable. There's a stormwater drain on it as is. So the topography is not great, and it's only about 1.5 acres. So it's not really buildable. He thought that would be a better location than one of the other locations they actually approached us about.
There's in the agenda, there's I'm going to call it a motion to authorize me to execute the agreement to sale and purchase of that to them.
We won't be responsible for any stormwater runoff, any type of engineering, not using any of the people we've used in the past, correct?
No, sir, not at all.
All right.
Rose, I have a question. It's Arthur.
Yes, sir.
The environmental clause in there, are we clear that there is not an environmental issue there?
We have not had any studies done on that parcel, anything that they come across. So we don't know of anything. If they were to come across something, it would be something new to us.
But I thought, thank you.
No problem.
Do you need a motion, Rose, with the exact words you got there, or?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Have a motion to let me sign this document. Bill.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second it, Arthur.
Arthur, thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 It's a good thing. Next one, and I think Rose is going to maybe talk to us a little bit. She's been sending out a lot of good information on Bounce Back 3. So Bounce Back 3, Rose.
Yes. So in my secretary's report, I was going to update you all on round 1 and 2 of the Bounce Back program, but I think this would be a good idea to go ahead and update you now to give you the full story. We have awarded $492,000 to 64 organizations through Bounce Back round 1 and 2 of the Bounce Back Orange Grant Program. That program, both of those rounds were funded using Federal CARES Act money allocated to Orange County and money that the Board of Supervisors allocated to give back to the business community. As you all may know, that money does need to be used by December 30th, and we have dispersed all of that funding. With the new restrictions that are being placed and discussions with other staff members in county administration, we and the Board of Supervisors, it was determined that a round 3 would be beneficial as well for the community. So the Board of Supervisors has allocated $200,000, and this would be not from CARES money. This is county allocated money that we would be able to set up a round 3 bounce back program and be able to offer businesses and organizations up to $10,000 in forgivable grants. Right now, we're just marketing the program, and we hope the interest form is supposed to open next week, and we will start taking applications the first week of January through January 4th through January 15th. And we hope to award the $194,000 from this fund to the businesses by the end of January. And this one will also run through the EDA. The county will put the money in the EDA's account, and the EDA will then give the money to CIC, since they're the ones who are actually underwriting all the grants similar to round 1 and 2.
Have you had that much demand? Rose?
Yes, we've given all the money out, and
No.
after the sorry.
No, my question is, for the supervisors to authorize that additional funds, do you have a list?
No, we have a list of about 3 businesses specifically who have reached out since round 2 is closed, asking for a round 3.
Okay, and you anticipate more as I do.
Absolutely, and we plan to. That's why we started marketing already, to hope spread the word far and wide.
Do we have a profile, or it doesn't really matter? What business?
Profile on the type of business?
Yeah.
The ones who have applied, or the ones that are applying?
We'll apply for the 200K.
They're mostly retail businesses.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, storefronts and restaurants.
Yeah.
And they have to show where they've been affected by COVID.
Yes,
I don't think
the eligibility requirements are going to be similar. You can't use the funds if you've received funding in round 1, 2 for the same 1 or 2 for the same expenses, and you do have to show some sort of disruption related to COVID.
Yeah. Okay. There's a motion written up in the agenda. Would somebody like to make the motion? Thank you, Bill.
Got it. I was looking for that motion. I don't see it.
Okay, number 8.
I don't see it, but I will make a motion that we approve round 3.
Okay. Does it have to be worded exactly, Rose, or is that good enough?
Read it for you. To authorize the chairman to execute the related documents, contracts, and agreements to facilitate round 3 of the program.
Thank you.
That's what I said.
That's what he said.
Yep.
Second? Thank you, Bob, with the second.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Does that also
Great.
part of what you were telling us, your secretary report?
Yes, I have a couple other additions to add, if
Good.
you'd like to. Okay.
Yep.
We did successfully launch the Quad County Business Summit to a virtual platform this year. That was held last month on October 17th. We had about 50 attendees over the 5 localities. We did add Madison as a guest locality this year. We're pleased to announce we had 2 Orange businesses compete. Both were in the semifinals and 1 made it to the finals. However, the actual winner of the Quad Tank was a business from Fluvanna County.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully next year things will go back as normal and we'll be able to have it in person. As part of our, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
I was going to update on the consumer confidence campaign, but if you had any questions regarding
No. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
We launched our consumer confidence campaign last month. So far, we've published 2 videos and 5 blogs featuring various businesses all over the county, telling their story about how their business is following the necessary protocols to welcome customers into their stores. It's actually been a big hit on social media. We've had a lot of shares and a lot of businesses are getting a lot of exposure. So we're happy to have that. Another video will follow, and we just recently launched a ready to work video featuring footage from 2 of our manufacturers, Zama and Homestead Building Systems, just saying that our manufacturing industries and industries across the board in Orange County are following safety guidelines and are here to welcome you back to work. So we're hoping that'll draw up some interest for job seekers.
Yep, super, good. Question?
Sure, go ahead.
No. Do you have any feel or knowledge yet on what the county's going to do starting in January and February with in-person meetings at all? Have you had any conversation with Ted on that?
We did receive an email today. The governor's restrictions are limiting meetings in person to 10 or less. And Ted has instructed us and guided us to have the least amount of in-person meetings and to continue Zoom and phone call meetings as much as possible.
No, we'd still continue to do Zoom meetings.
Yes, until January 31st is the governor's newest guidance.
Yeah.
Yes. As part of our consumer confidence campaign, as another leg of that, we are offering 10 $150 gift cards to a local business. All individuals have to do to enter this program is have their business passport signed by 6 different businesses. They go in, do some shopping, initial that they were there. They get to return their passport back to us, and we're going to do a live drawing, on December 18th for 10 $150 gift cards.
That's nice.
So please help spread the word if you know anybody who might be interested. Great way to win some extra Christmas money.
Yeah.
Christmas gifts. And then kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, Mr. Rogers, for January, I was thinking we would hold our first meeting virtual January 14th at 5:30. We usually set the January meeting at the last meeting of the year, and just wanted to see if that works with your schedule, everyone else's schedule.
Yep. Yes for Doug.
All good.
All good.
Yes.
I'm good.
All right, great. We will send out an invite for that.
Okay.
And one more item, our strategic planning sessions, those have all been completed with our stakeholders, you all as the EDA members and all of our board members. We were planning on having our 2-hour meeting with you all, the EDA, and our consultant to draw out the actual goals and strategies next month. However, due to the limitations on meetings, we are going to move that to February and have proposed February 25th from 4 to 7. It may not be the full 3 hours, but our consultant just asked us to earmark that time and set that aside if that works for everyone else's schedule. It would be a Thursday night at the airport. And as long as we're able to have in-person meetings, we'll be able to have ample social distancing there.
Yep. Sure. Okay, good. Before we adjourn, anybody got anything? Bob, anything you want to share?
No.
I have one additional item.
Okay,
If
go.
that's okay. I just wanted to update everyone on True Leave. They are the prospect who has an offer on the York site, and they're have submitted their pharmaceutical processor application to the Virginia Board of Pharmacy. They actually submitted that on December 4th. And we are waiting for the final determination from the state of Virginia on who will be awarded that permit. We hope that decision will be made in late February, early March, but we're rooting for them and hoping to have them as a new business in Orange County.
Good, super.
Rose,
Yes,
do
sir.
you know if anybody else has also applied to the Board of Pharmacy?
Yes, they were anticipating about 60 applicants. I don't know how many actually applied, but there were several other in our region who did apply.
Thank you.
Bill, anything else?
Rose, how much of this information can we give out, or do we just be quiet about it in conversation?
Well, it's public knowledge or public information that they have an offer on the property. Our letter of support was public, and the Board of Supervisors letter of support was public. So that's about all the information that we have at this point. Any of the proprietary information, which was marked confidential in our closed sessions, that is protected by the non-disclosure agreements we all signed.
Exactly. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything, Jack?
No, sir.
Arthur, anything?
All good, thank you.
Good. Julie, anything?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, we stand adjourned. See you in the morning, Susan. Have a
Thank you all.
Have a good, safe Christmas. Stay safe, guys.
You too.
You as well.